we are living in a world that's telling women what we should look like, what we should be doing. That is making us feel unsafe, and that is destroying us hormonally.
Dr. Mindy Pelz, I'm so excited to have you here, and I think the work that you are doing is just so important.
So I experimented with these 5 women, and I said, let's give it 90 days of this. All of them within 30 days got pregnant.
No way.
And so
should women be fasting?
This is gonna sound like I'm contradicting myself, but it's an absolute yes, and there are sometimes it's no.
I'm Radhi Devlukia, and on my podcast, A Really Good Cry, we embrace the real, the messy, and the beautiful, providing a space for raw, unfiltered conversations that celebrate vulnerability and allow you to tune in to learn, connect, and find comfort together. Mindy, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I have been a fan for a very long time.
Oh, you're so kind.
And your Instagram videos, whatever podcast you go on, seem to be on my feed, of going viral constantly.
Sweet, thank you.
And it's not just what you speak about, your nature since the moment you walked in the door. You have such a calm, warm energy. So thank you so much for bringing that into my home.
Oh, thank you for having me.
No, I feel like I'm so excited to have you here. And I think the work that you are doing is just so important for women. So thank you for what you do. So the first question I wanted to ask you actually was, what took you from a degree in chiropractics to writing books on fasting, menopause, and so many more incredible topics?
Oh my God, this is such a good question. And it's so funny because there's some questions that people don't ask me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they should ask me this.
Oh,
and that is one of them.
Amazing. I was so intrigued. I actually really want to know.
So this is really interesting. What most people don't realize is that in chiropractic school, you are literally trained that the body heals itself.
Wow.
So every single class you learn, from biochemistry to neuroanatomy to cardiopulmonary physiology to musculoskeletal health, is all through that lens that the body is constantly doing the right thing at the right time. Mm-hmm. When I got into practice, I started to integrate all the different ways that people's body gets off course, and what are all the different things that cause people's body to not heal. And we call them interferences.
Wow.
And usually it's physical, emotional, or chemical interferences. Mm-hmm. And so I would sit with my patients, and in my head, I was like, is this physical, emotional, chemical? Like, what is it? And I realized that was about the time, I was in practice like 27 years ago was when I started my practice.
Yeah.
It also happened to be when glyphosate was introduced into our food system.
Wow.
And was starting to be sprayed on all kinds of fruits and vegetables. Mm-hmm. And I started to see, like, within the first 5 years of practice, that people were going from coming in with one symptom to people coming in with like 10 symptoms. And so I started to look at environmentally, like, what was going on that was attacking so many people. Mm-hmm. And that's when I realized, wait, we gotta work on retraining people on how to eat. We got to figure out how to help people detox. We got to figure out how people can get on supplements and then get off supplements. Like, I just started thinking deeper about what was blocking the body from healing itself.
It's so interesting because when you hear chiropractics, you think, oh, it's physical body.
Exactly.
Like, you're helping to fix the way that I walk or the way that I move. But it's incredible that it's so much deeper than that.
So it's the number one principle of chiropractic is the body heals itself. And our job is to just remove the interference. So, like, when a patient would come in and be like, you healed me, I'd be like, no, I didn't heal you at all. You healed you. All we did together was figure out what was interfering it.
Right.
And with fasting, that is where I got so excited, because I was like, wait a second, somebody can heal themselves without any money? I can teach the world a tool where their body can heal themselves and they don't need any time or money. Those were the biggest hurdles that I saw to healing.
And then fasting was something that you started studying and came across?
Yep.
Wow.
I became obsessed with it.
Really?
So there's a really famous study. Dr. Yoshinori Osumi in 2016 won the Nobel Prize in Medicine and Physiology for a term called autophagy. And it was that the cells detoxed themselves in the absence of food.
Right.
Well, at that time, I was doing so much detox with my patients. And I was like, okay, well, the goal of health is not to be on a bazillion supplements.
Yeah.
What if I could get them to fast and they could detox themselves without all these supplements? So I literally, for about, I don't know, 5 years, I spent about 20, 30 hours a week on PubMed, just looking at all the studies on fasting and trying to match them up and figure it out. And then my YouTube channel was like a baby at that time. And so I was like, well, let me just teach this to my patients. Let me teach it to the world. And on YouTube, I kept asking people like, give me your feedback. Give me your feedback. Tell me what you're noticing. And people give me their feedback. And I just started to see what was working and what wasn't working.
And that is actually the best way to see if something's working or not, right? Like the fact that the proof is in the pudding. Like you know it's working because you are seeing it with your own eyes. You're experiencing with your own patients. And so there is no better evidence than firsthand experience that you're having.
Yeah.
You write about women fasting. Specifically, you have a book called Fast Like a Girl. You also have a book called Eat Like a Girl, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Is it Eat Like a Girl or Eat Like a Woman?
No, Eat Like a Girl.
Eat Like a Girl, I like it.
A friend of mine said to me the other day, when do I get to be a woman?
Yeah, no, I like it.
No, you don't get to be a woman,
No.
and I can explain why. I'm like, you can be a woman, but not when you're reading my books.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. Fast Like a Girl, Eat Like a Girl. And I think your most recent book is a book based on menopause, right? The Menopause Reset.
The Menopause Reset actually was the first one.
Oh, was that the first one?
Yeah, it was the very first one because
Oh.
as I was discovering fasting and I was playing with some keto principles and I was detoxing, my practice was built off what I call the mama bears, where all these women came in and they're like, can you just write down what you're teaching us? So I put that into the Menopause Reset.
Wow,
Yeah.
amazing. So many different topics covered, but I wanted to start with fasting.
Yeah, of course.
And I guess my first question is, should women be fasting? So many things that you can absorb online, but I would love to hear from you what your experience with it has been.
This is going to sound like I'm contradicting myself, but it's an absolute yes. And there are sometimes it's no.
Yes.
So that's confusing because we like absolutes.
I know.
Especially when it comes to like a real.
Yeah, no one likes duality. No one likes there being a no, but maybe.
Right, exactly.
But please expand. I would love to hear if women are supposed to fast, when should we be fasting?
Yes.
And what are the benefits of it?
So let's look at the primary sex hormones that run a woman. And they really are estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So the challenge that we have with any lifestyle tool is that estrogen and progesterone want dramatically different things. So I always say that they're like twin sisters. They have the same name. We give them the same category of family name, sex hormones, but they have vastly different personalities.
Yeah.
So estrogen loves when you keep glucose and insulin down. If you can keep glucose and insulin down, estrogen thrives.
Okay.
She also doesn't really mind if cortisol goes up. She's like, if you're stressed, she's like, no worries. I can still make my appearance. I can still be, show up for you.
Okay.
Progesterone's completely the different animal. What she wants is glucose to be higher, and she wants you not to raise cortisol.
Oh.
And intuitively, we know this because what do we do the week before our period?
Eat chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know why we eat chocolate?
No, tell me.
Because it has magnesium in it.
Yes.
And it's higher in sugar. And so progesterone's like, bring glucose up, give me some magnesium. And then we start craving carbs, chocolate, and sugar. And then this is the thing that drives me crazy is because then we shame ourselves. We're like, I can't stick to my diet.
Yes.
Something must be wrong.
That was me 3 days ago, guys.
Perfect. But all progesterone's saying is like, I need a little more. I need a little more glucose. I need it's like think of it like baking a cake. Like you need flour.
Yes.
So if you're going to make progesterone, you need glucose.
Okay.
So not good to be fasting when progesterone's showing up.
Wow.
But estrogen, totally great. She loves it. You can fast all you want when she shows up.
And out of interest, the workouts that you do, does that then make a difference? Because I imagine that if it's craving a lot of glucose, if you're craving a lot of glucose, at the same time, would high intensity workouts and those type of intense things that you're putting your body through, would they also contradict?
Yeah. So I love that your brain went there. And this is what I always think with Fast Like a Girl. I feel like we cracked open a conversation that got a lot of women going, but what about this and what about that? So here's the thing about estrogen and workouts. When estrogen is high in our body, our tendons and our ligaments are very flexible.
Right.
You can push your workout strong when estrogen shows up, which is pretty much day 1 through day 15.
Right.
Like go ahead, run a marathon, push your workouts hard. But the closer you get to ovulation, like day 10 to day 15, careful with your box jumps and your HIIT training, because you could tear a muscle or a ligament really easily. So that's the only exception there.
No, I've definitely experienced that. The week before my period, I have to be so careful with how much weight I put onto the machine.
Perfect.
Or like if I'm doing hip thrust, then actually the weight that I put, especially around my lower back or especially my back area or my legs, I cannot do as heavy weights as I usually would, because I end up feeling back pain or I end up injuring myself. So I've really learned that. I learned that the hard way, because I did it a couple of years ago where I pushed myself way too hard. And I was like, oh, there is such a pattern I'm seeing between the week before my period and how much I can really push myself in my workout.
Okay, so this is a huge one. This is going to end the question of PMS right here. Is that what you are expressing is progesterone? If she could talk to you, she would say, hey, week before your period, I don't want you to raise cortisol too high. I actually want you to do more of a recovery phase. I want you to rest more. The week before our periods, we were meant to rest. We were meant to raise glucose. We're not meant to push it.
Wow.
The minute we push it and cortisol goes high, what happens, I always say progesterone goes shy, she's out, and then all of a sudden we're irritable because progesterone brings GABA.
Oh.
So all of a sudden we're irritable, we're starving, we are edgy, you don't want to be around us, but that's because you're not playing by the rules that progesterone has. And it's chill out, eat some carbs, relax, recover. Once you start bleeding, boom, now you can go into hyper performance mode.
And it's interesting that your body really does tell you what it needs and what it wants, because those cravings come, and sometimes it's not just your mind playing with you, it's literally your body screaming at you saying, I need some more fuel. Give me some more fuel. Stop your diet right now.
And this is where like the female part of it really gets to my heart, because we have been taught to distrust our bodies. We've been taught that our bodies are thriving if there's a number on the scale, that's the number that we like. We're taught that if we look in the mirror and we like what we see, or if we can put a filter on an Instagram and make everybody go, oh, you look so gorgeous, that's health. No, your beautiful feminine body is like giving you signals all day long, but culturally we haven't been taught how to clue in on them.
I think we're also constantly taught how not to trust our body, because we're told that we should always go to other people to learn about it.
Bingo.
I noticed that so much growing up. I got to a point where I was like, it's not that I just don't know my body, I don't know my own mind. And if I don't know my own mind, how can I know my own body? And so I think there's such an emphasis put on, if you get a cold and I'm not saying not to go to the doctors, people, but if you get a cold, you get a cough, if you get anything, listen to what someone else is saying. Rather than saying, oh, why don't you try and listen to what your body is telling you? Because it's screaming at you in some way, whether it's through your skin, whether it's through your hair, whether it's through the way that you're moving, the movement that you have. Your body's trying to tell you something. But we're constantly told to trust in other people's opinion about our own body.
I just love that you said that, because that is the crux of every book I write, every video I do, is I'm trying to explain it so women understand it so that they can make better choices. And I'll use an example. A recent one for me is, since evacuating from the fires, I've woken up every morning in incredible anxious state. And I can feel this like gripping in my chest. And so for 3 weeks, I've been walking around like an elephant on my chest. And so 2 days ago, I was meditating in the morning, and I finally took my own advice and was like, okay, body, what do you want? What are you telling me? And the word surrender came. And the minute I was like, I don't have any control over what's going on with my house in the Palisades. I have to completely surrender. The pain went away. But we can do that with every single symptom.
Definitely.
Have that relationship with your body of like, what are you trying to tell me? As opposed to shaming it, guilting it, which is what a lot of women do.
We seem to have gone through exactly the same experience in the last week, because I literally shared a post on Instagram yesterday or day before, because I woke up with so much anxiety, and I get that sometimes before my period. It was like this overwhelming anxiety of loss. And I spoke about it saying that I woke up and I was just feeling this unsoothing feeling of loss that I was thinking about my family, and then I was thinking about here, and there was just so much going through my mind. And I sat before my meditation, and I literally said exactly the same words. I said, I just surrender my fear and my anxiety to you. Like, I'm surrendering it. I'm giving it to you because I can't control this.
That's right.
Everything that I'm fearful of right now is nothing I can control.
Yeah.
And so I give it to you, universe, to God. I give it away because I can no longer hold it in me. I don't have space for it.
So beautiful.
And so, but I do think it's interesting how I think when there's collective anxiety and collective fear around you, energy is so exchangeable.
Yes.
Like people around us are feeling that. And everybody everyone's a little bit uneasy right now in LA.
Yeah. Yes.
But we don't realize that there's collective energy that everybody ends up actually feeling and taking from one another.
Yeah.
But it was just interesting that we both had that.
Yeah. So really almost same thing. I think a woman's body is meant to pick up on the subtle cues of collectively what's going on. And I think part of the challenge that we have is that we haven't been trained how to read those clues and understand them. And again, I think a male's body is a lot more black and white, but a woman's body is not that way. No. And I hope people listening to this like honor that when a symptom shows up, the best thing you can do is ask that symptom, what do you want? How can I listen to you, as opposed to how do I make you go away?
Yes, I completely agree. I wanted to ask a few more questions about fasting, because I think when people hear fasting, immediately their body says, oh God, like I don't think the fear of scarcity, the fear of not having your comforts and the normality that you are used to is quite scary. And so I guess my first question is, when do you think is a good time for people to fast? What are the signs and symptoms in someone's body that they should be thinking about doing a fast?
Yeah. So let me go to this place first, that if people haven't heard this one blows their mind. Yeah. We have two metabolisms. We don't just have one. We have one that gets ignited when we eat food. Right. I call it the sugar burner metabolism. Yeah. And then the other one gets ignited when we don't eat food. And it's called the fat burner metabolism. Wow. So we are like a hybrid car. We work off of glucose and we work off of ketones. Okay. And we're meant to metabolically switch in and out of these two different metabolisms. Yeah. So I'll tell you sort of the basic premise, and then we can talk about how it maps to a woman's cycle, or even how it maps to a menopausal cycle. So we have to understand that every cell in our body, and including the neurons in our brain, need glucose and they need ketones. So when you ask, when should you fast? Well, the question really is, when do you need ketones? So ketones are there to fire up your brain, so that whenever you need mental clarity, whenever you need calm. So check this out. When ketones go up, GABA goes up. So you actually calm. So people always think the longer I go out without food, I'll be in bad shape. Yeah. Actually, the opposite. The more you train your body to do this, the more you'll see that actually there's a sense of inner knowing. Like, I'll give you an example. I haven't eaten today because I knew I was coming down here. I didn't know what it was going to be like to be back in LA. Yes. And I purposely didn't have breakfast because I'm like, I need the ketone calm. Wow. So I was like, I can do it. I'll eat dinner tonight. But that's an example of how I used fasting for my mental and spiritual benefit.
Which is also so interesting, because for thousands and thousands of years, monks have fasted for days and days and days when they want to go into deep meditation.
That's right. We do 2 times a year. We do a 3-day water fast worldwide. So we did one the week of the fires. We had 100,000 people worldwide that were doing a 3-day water fast. Wow! And that's amazing. The morning of the fire, I was supposed to lead these people through a webinar, and I literally in my head I was like, I just need to get to a parking lot so I can pull my phone out and give the webinar. But that the universe had a different plan for me. But why I love doing that is there's incredible spiritual insight, because when you're not processing food, when you're not putting all the energy to digesting food, you become an open channel. the mind calms, the insights come in. So the longer you go, it's those longer fasts, you really start to get some inner knowing that you would think, oh my God, 3 days without food, I'd be dying. I'd be, it would be horrible, but actually it's not. You enter a whole nother level of understanding that you can't get when you're in the fed state.
Wow. I had no idea. The connection makes so much sense now.
Yeah.
We have a lot of fasts in our culture, and as part of our spiritual practices, we do like grain-free fasts, or we'll do a full 1 day, like 24-hour water fast.
Amazing.
But yeah, when you spoke about it like that, it makes complete sense.
Yeah. So that's why, like in Fast Like a Girl, I put out 6 different level fasts.
Right.
And they're all based off time. And what I wanted to do with that is really allow people to choose. So like if you just want to bring down some inflammation, you want to get a little ketones, you want to kind of just have a good little buzz, then you can intermittent fast for 15 hours, you're good.
Yeah.
If you want to repair your gut, then go a little longer, get 24 hours, you're going to get some gut repair. If you want to go 36, then you're going to burn a little more fat. If you want to like get yourself a new dopamine system and like reboot it, then go 48 hours. And if you want to reset your whole system, then do 72.
Yeah. And my question to that is, a lot of women that I know had gone through yo-yo dieting throughout their life. Yeah. And that actually, from my understanding, really messed up their metabolism. Yeah. And so when you end up doing these fasts, how does that compare to this idea of starving your body for short periods of time and then going back to food, and then, that actually messing up your metabolism to this? How does this affect the metabolism?
Yeah, it's such a good question. So when I look at the fasting lifestyle, I look at it in a 24-hour period. I look at it every day. I have a window in which I fast. And I have a window in which I eat. So today I'm in my fasting window, but then when I land in my hotel tonight, I will open up my eating window.
Yes.
When you open your eating window up, eat. This is not calorie restriction. This isn't even carb restriction. Yes. You can go and get ketones without restricting carbs this way.
Right.
But you have to start looking at food as medicine and seeing that you want to eat good, nourishing food. And then you want to look at these as fasting windows you're tacking onto your day.
Yeah.
Now let's juxtapose that to the woman who's like, has maybe, and everybody's eating disorder behavior will look different. Yes. But a lot of women will get up, they'll have a little bit of breakfast, and then they won't eat all day long. And then maybe they'll have a snack at 3, and then maybe they'll eat something at, a little something at 7 o'clock at night. Yeah. Well, they're not fasting. That's not fasting.
No, it's not.
That's disordered eating. That's restricting calories in a different way. So I like to look at it as windows.
Right.
So, and every morning I wake up, I'm like, when am I going to eat? When am I going to open up that eating window? And then every time I open up the eating window, I go, okay, what does my body need? So I'm like, if I need more, have I eaten enough greens? Okay, maybe I need to eat more greens. Have I had enough protein? Maybe I need to eat more protein. Yes. So I start looking at food as medicine and fasting as tapping into an internal healing experience that my body can only do in the absence of food.
And with intermittent fasting, so I intermittent fast, I, usually stop eating by 6 o'clock and then I eat again maybe at like 10 or 11 a.m.
Perfect.
But is that something you can do throughout your menstrual cycle, or should you not be doing it, the week before your period?
Yeah, the week before is the outlier. Your system works great for every week except the week before.
Oh, okay.
So you should be eating something when you first get up, and specifically carbs, but I call them nature's carbs. I have not found too many reasons for us to be doing refined flours and sugars unless it's like a fermented sourdough or something like that.
Yeah, I know. Last week I remember I was saying, I don't know why I'm so hungry at the moment. And you know what? No matter whether you track your period or not, for some reason, for my whole team who are women, they're like, it was just such a surprise when my period came. Right. You always end up getting surprised. But for me, I was like, I don't know why I'm so hungry this week or these couple of days. And then my period comes out, that's why I was hungry.
So there's a beautiful moment where you can be like, why am I so hungry? Okay, progesterone, what do you need from me today?
Yes.
And so then you can tap in and like just start asking your body what it needs during that time. We haven't been taught that, right?
No,
as
we
women,
really haven't.
We're like taught like, oh my God, I'm so hungry today. I must be undisciplined. And that's what I'm trying to free women from.
I completely agree. Has there been anything surprising after all the years of seeing different patients and seeing women go through this? What's been one of the most surprising things that you found out through the research you've done?
Oh my God. Okay. Well, for starters, fertility.
Yes. Tell me more.
The fasting cycle that I did in Fast Like a Girl, I had taken 5 of my employees who were struggling to get pregnant through that fasting cycle.
Which one is it in your book?
It's in my book, in Fast Like a Girl. And then I carried it over in Eat Like a Girl. They're kind of companion manuals. One's the fasting window, one's the eating window. And so I had this cycle where you go high carb, low carb, long fast, short fast. And so I experimented with these 5 women and I said, let's give it 90 days of this. All of them within 30 days got pregnant.
No way.
And so then when Fast Like a Girl went out, I was like, okay, what's going to happen? And so all the amount of people that sent me messages saying that they got pregnant, like,
that is amazing.
Shocked me. Yeah, shocked me.
Oh, I have to share that with a few of my friends, actually.
So that was one. The number of post-menopausal women that got a period after 10 years of not having a period.
No.
Yeah, that shocked me.
Wow.
That was a crazy one.
These are all good shockers.
Yeah, they're good shocks. Yeah, I would say people losing like ridiculous amounts of weight. Like, I wish there was a way I could go to my YouTube channel, and maybe with AI someday I'll be able to do this, and extract the amount of weight people have lost, but hundreds of pounds when people tried everything else and nothing worked.
Those are great ones.
Yeah.
Okay, so weight loss, fertility, and menopause.
Yeah.
What is the difference between men fasting and women fasting then? How does that differ? Would a man be able to follow the same protocol that you've got in there and get similar results?
Yeah, he could, but he doesn't really, the fasting cycle is a little more sophisticated because we have 3 sex hormones that we run off of. They don't have progesterone.
Right,
so men don't have progesterone. So we've already talked about how she's an outlier.
Yes.
But men work off a 24-hour hormonal cycle. So every 15 minutes, they get a little pulse of testosterone. And testosterone goes up into the brain and converts to estrogen for men.
Right.
Testosterone doesn't really mind if you fast. And so it seems to be that they just need to make sure they don't fast all the time. And it's really every man's a little different. But we're way more sophisticated. And
can't help it.
The example I use, and the women love it and the men don't, is that a woman's body is like a sophisticated violin, and a man's body is like a kazoo.
Like a little recorder.
Yeah, like, let's give it a recorder. I used to say a ukulele.
Yes.
Like, it's just, you can play it. It's very simple. It's light to hear.
It does its job.
It does its job. But a woman's body is like, we are so intricate. And this is why we're at this weird evolutionary mismatch right now.
Oh, tell me more.
Because the modern world is throwing so much physical, emotional, chemical stress at us that our hormones are like, what? Whoa, we don't know how to respond to what's coming at us. A male's body has one priority, and that's survival. So the body will work off of always tilting towards survival. A woman's body has 2 priorities, survival and reproduction. So whatever environment you put yourself in, if you are in, running from fires and cortisol is going up, all of a sudden your reproductive system goes down.
Right.
Whereas a man, that doesn't happen as much. His hormonal system's not going to go off because stress goes up. If a man eats, the wrong foods, eats too many carbs, not going to be a problem unless it's like a really, bad, ultra refined processed food carb. A woman's body, she eats too many carbs over and over and over again. That might be a problem. If she's too diety, that might be a problem.
Yeah.
What we need to all think, regardless of what age we're at, is we need to think, when I'm moving through my day, am I in environments where my body feels safe?
Yes.
And if it feels safe and nourished, then your reproductive system will work.
What do you think are some of the main causes of, the number of women that are having, like you said, hormonal issues, disorders because of that, polycystic ovary syndrome, thyroid issues? From what you've seen, what do you think are some of the main reasons that women are going through these these hormonal disorders?
So I can give you the philosophical reason, and then I can give you the...
Give me both.
Okay,
I want both.
So I'm going to start with the philosophical one because this is really the tenets of the book I'm writing right now. We live in a patriarchal society. To me, what the patriarch means, power over. That we have structures in place that say, you are worthy as a woman if you look a certain way, if you weigh a certain thing, if your face is smooth and beautiful. And so we are living in a world that's telling women what we should look like, what we should be doing.
It's dictated by that.
Yes. That is making us feel unsafe. Right. And the minute we feel unsafe, our reproductive system shuts down. Oh my God. In my new book that will come out at the end of this year, I'm really quoting a feminist philosopher named Carol Gilligan. And she, in the 1980s, looked at teenage girls, that was me in the 1980s, and found that the patriarchal society taught girls, and I think we still teach girls this, that you are a good girl if you are selfless.
Yes.
So as women, what do? We wrap ourselves up in all kinds of ways to be like, am I worthy now? Yeah. If I look a certain way, will you love me? If I act a certain way, will you love me? If I'm successful enough, will you love me? So many women are walking around like that, and that is destroying us hormonally. And so we can't get pregnant, we can't lose weight, we have an insane amount of menopausal symptoms because we are trying to wrap ourselves up to be acceptable to a patriarchal society that says you need to look like Barbie.
Right.
There's only one way to act and one way to be. So from a philosophical lens, I feel like it's really the culture.
Yes.
And why I'm so adamant about this is it takes conversations like this for us individually to break out of that and say, the fires, I'll keep using it because it's what I've been through. About 4 days after the fire, as I was running from the fire, people kept sending me texts and they're like, are you okay? Are you okay? Finally, on that Friday, which the fires happened on Tuesday, on Friday, I was like, peace out. I am not okay.
Yeah.
So I just started saying I'm not okay.
Yeah.
You know how liberating it was to say I wasn't okay?
Yeah.
I don't have to pretend for you all now that I'm okay. I'm just going to let you know I'm not okay. And then I started having so many women messaging me and they're like, I wasn't in a fire evacuation, but I'm not okay.
Yeah.
And thank you for saying you're not okay because I haven't been okay for a really long time. We don't have a culture where women can just say, I don't want to play that patriarchal game anymore. I'm really suffering. I need to nurture myself. I need to find myself. I want to have my own authentic voice here. Once we do that, hormones will start to balance better.
It's so interesting that you said, when you said unsafe, I was thinking, we think about that in our environment. We think about that in our relationships. You can say, this person makes me feel safe. This house makes me feel safe. Walking down this street makes me feel safe. But I don't know whether we ever really sit there and think, is this making my internal system feel safe? Is my digestive system feeling safe? And I think you have this nervous system that you sometimes listen to, maybe sometimes you don't, but you don't think of food and what you're eating and those things to think. You don't think about safety in that in that sense. When I don't eat, it's actually making my body feel unsafe. Or when I do eat this, it's actually making my body feel unsafe.
Right. So safety, you have to be in a state of safety.
Yeah, of course.
For your reproductive system, because otherwise the female body's like, we're not making a baby.
Yes.
Why would we make a baby right now? We're not even feeling safe. So you bring up such a good point. You could walk into your grocery store, grab a bag of Doritos and a Coke, and you have just sent a signal to your body that
you're not safe.
Yeah, that you're not safe.
Oh my gosh.
Do we look at food like that?
No, but what an incredible way to change your mindset into thinking like that. And when you paired it with, fertility, it makes so much sense. Your body's constantly sending signals through every single thing that you allow through your senses.
That's right.
Whether you are safe or not safe.
That's right. Yeah. So your home environment, the people you hang out with, this is why, it's interesting. We've had some chats about social media, but on social media, I don't know how you feel about this, but it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. I'm like, what you see on social media is authentically me. I don't put filters on. I'm like, this is a 55-year-old woman.
Yes.
Because what is happening to especially our teenagers is we go to Instagram and we're like, I can't be that person. And now you just picked up your phone and you feel unsafe.
You do. You really do.
It's crazy.
I don't think there's many people that can say they've scrolled through social media for 15 minutes and that they feel safe from that whole interaction.
Ooh, that's so well said.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I can speak for myself. It's whether it's, it's funny because I'm turning 35 this year and I'm like, you notice your body start changing. Yep. And by the time you hit your 30s, you start thinking that you are aging because of how social media creates that feeling. And not that I think that's a bad thing. I feel the same way as you. I'm really like embracing every single year and trying to live that way. But I think that narrative starts from 20s now. It's like from 20, you're thinking about the 18-year-old.
So here's a question that I can't find an answer to yet. Ask. And so I've been like asking people and trying to figure it out. Is in women, what does wisdom look like? How do you know you're sitting with a wise woman?
How do you know you're sitting with a wise woman?
And just on looks, She's not talking. She's not talking.
Oh.
You just know you're with a wise woman.
But I think about my grandma who's like 92 years old. And just by looking at her, not including like energy, right? Just by looking at them. Yeah, I guess it is honestly by like the incredible lines on her face, by the like beautiful head of gray hair that she has, that she owns.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think there's like a gentleness to that too.
There's a calm.
Feel safe. Yeah, there's a calm.
A peacefulness. They've been through a lot. She's been through a lot.
Yes,
so she has an inner knowing that you can feel just when you're with her.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's think about that for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
If everybody freezes their face, how will we find the wisdom keepers? If everybody dyes their hair, where we know people by their wisdom strands is what I call gray hairs.
I love that, wisdom strands.
How can we find the wise female elders if everybody is freezing their face?
Yeah, it's so true. And you're just constantly hiding from it.
Yeah.
And then at some point you can't,
Yeah.
There's a point where you just can't stop hiding from it because age is just, in our scriptures it says there's only 4 things that are certain: death, birth, old age, death, and disease.
Yeah.
Like they're the only 4 things that are actually certain in this life.
Yeah.
And so you have to start coming to terms with all of them. Like they are all part and parcel of life, not something that you're supposed to be running away from.
Right.
They're meant to be things that you embrace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hit me one day, like we have this anti-aging culture. And I was like, it doesn't feel like we should be anti-aging. We should be pro-aging. Yeah. We're all aging.
Yes.
And then I was looking through my Instagram and I was thinking about like what sometimes those Aboriginal women will come through. And
so beautiful.
Right?
So beautiful.
And
You're right. And you really feel something when you look at them.
Like if you take like an Aboriginal woman with like so many wrinkles and I look at that and I'm like, I wish those wrinkles could speak. Yeah. I wish that, what would they say compared to a woman who has a completely frozen face? Mm-hmm. I would like, I don't know what you have to offer me.
Because they're expression lines. Yeah. I remember reading somewhere, it's like every single line represents the laughs that you've had, the experiences that you've been through, the conversations you've had with people, the shocks that you've had, the surprises. Like that is what these lines are. They're the lines of expression.
That's
like
right.
The things that you have felt showing up on your body.
That's right.
And I thought that was such a beautiful way of putting it.
I went through a phase in my late 40s where I was like wrestling with Botox, no Botox. Yeah. And I had people, you can know this as an influencer, that I had people literally messaging me, DMing me and saying, you should probably Botox. I'm the same age as you and you have more wrinkles than me. And one day I was sitting with my husband and I was like, I just am wrestling with this because I don't want to put toxins in me. And he looked at my 11s up here and he said, you know what? That when I look at you and I see your 11s, I know how deeply you have thought about issues.
Oh my God, I love him. He sounds wonderful.
And I was like, thank you. I hadn't thought about that. If I made my 11s go away, then how would you know how deeply I'm thinking about things? And so I think it comes down again to worthy. Like we're taught that what is worthiness? And that might be even another question to ask is like, what does worthiness look like for women?
And what does health look like? Like, the same battle you've had, I've had at my age, thinking of, should I go into certain treatments and do certain things? And I feel the same way about you. I don't want to put those things into my body. And I also want to learn how to embrace who I am at every stage.
Yeah.
But I think this battle that people go through, it's like, you're also constantly telling yourself, the more you move away from who you are, you're telling yourself you're not worthy. Every time you're trying to hide certain things on your face. And I think about that even when I got like a spot on my face, or I used to get cold sores, and I used to constantly try and like hide myself from people when I was going through those things. And with aging, it's like, if you're constantly hiding yourself, you are not accepting yourself.
Ooh, that's so
and
good.
So it's a really difficult battle. And by the way, this is not criticizing anybody who's chosen to get anything like that done, but it's more of like a reflection of, am I trying to hide away from myself? Because then you're also not coming to terms with who you are. Like, you are not accepting yourself.
So beautiful.
And so then as soon as you don't accept yourself, it's really difficult to find people who also accept you for your own value.
This is why I love conversations like this, because I hadn't really thought about that. 80% of autoimmune conditions happen to women.
80%.
80%.
What?
And an autoimmune condition is the body attacking itself.
Oh my God. Yeah,
it's not just a physical attack. It's not just a genetic thing. But to you, what you just said, if every day I look in the mirror and I want to change something, or I criticize myself, I'm attacking myself with my own thoughts.
Yeah, I'm literally looking at myself and I'm rejecting myself. So imagine every day you looked at your partner and they were rejecting you every single day, every time they saw you.
Right.
Yeah, I've been, really trying to change that narrative. Jay asked me this morning, he goes, have you been doing any positive affirmations lately? He said he's really been trying to practice them in his mind. And I said, I wouldn't say I've been doing positive affirmations, but I've been doing a lot of correction. And so whether that's looking in the mirror and I say something that isn't actually very nice, I will try and correct it with something positive, like change the narrative in my mind, which hopefully lead to positive affirmations. But sometimes it's hard to have, if you've got a narrative that's in your mind regularly, it's hard to automatically go to something positive. Yeah. And so to work my way towards that, I'm like, no, I think what I'm really trying right now is correction. I see myself, I'm like, oh, the first thing I noticed was this thing on my face, but then I'm trying to correct it with what you're saying. I'm like, it's expression. It's expression. Yeah. It's this, it's that. And so the correction has really helped me versus trying to just constantly positively affirm when I don't necessarily feel as positive about it yet as I should.
When I was about your age, I started to think about how I look in the mirror very different.
Yes.
And one thing I realized is that every time I would get dressed or wash my face or get ready for bed, I would look in the mirror and I would find the thing I didn't like.
Yes.
And I was like, one day I was like, what if I find the thing I do like?
Yeah.
And so I started training my brain to just go, okay, I like that, I like that, I like that. And it's hard at first because you're like, I like that, but I hate that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, that's nice, but wait.
Yeah, but that's okay. That's okay. You can hate something, but if you train yourself over time to look in the mirror and be like, oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. I'm so grateful for that. It really, over time, you'll change the way you look at yourself.
Yeah, your fixation changes.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask one more question about fasting and then move on to menopause. But I have a lot of Muslim friends who fast the 30 days Ramadan. Yeah. And I guess one of my questions I wanted to ask was, they're always asking me as a nutritionist, what are the best foods I should be eating when I come off my fast? Because their fast lasts from sunrise to sunset. Yeah. And so what are some of the foods that people who are doing this fast for Ramadan that they should be eating when they break their fast?
So I always breaking a fast into 3 categories. And one is, are you trying to rebuild your microbiome? Mm-hmm. So you have a really cool opportunity because when you're not eating, all the bad ones start to die off and the good ones are like, feed me, feed me. Mm-hmm. So more probiotic fermented foods, more polyphenol foods like olives and nuts and seeds and berries, and more prebiotic foods, which is also nuts and seeds. I list a bunch of them in both books.
Amazing.
But think about feeding your bacteria, not your taste buds.
Yes. Big difference.
Big difference.
Yeah.
I don't know if they eat meat, but if they do meat, bone broth is incredible because it has glycine in it and it starts to actually repair the inner lining of the gut. You can do mushroom broth, vegetable broth. Broths are really good to break a fast with too.
Amazing. And is it something which, should they be aiming not to eat too much during that period of time that they're eating? Or like you said, should they be getting in as much as possible?
Yeah, get in as much as possible. Nourish yourself. Food is not bad. It's what we did to food that made it bad.
Yes.
But if you go back to nature's food and look at things that haven't been manipulated, things that don't have an ingredient label, those are going to be the things that are going to nourish you the most. So the microbiome is one. Muscle is another one. That's a big thing that I hear a lot of people say, well, isn't fasting going to break your muscle down?
Yes.
Well, in the moment of fasting, it will. That's the purpose, is to get rid of the garbage in the muscle that's not serving it. So you want to add in a lot of protein. So if you're plant-based, then make sure you add in your plant-based proteins. And if you're omnivore, add in your animal meat.
Yeah.
And then the third one's really interesting because a lot of people boomerang. So a lot of people do this thing where they're like, they start to eat and they're like, oh my God, I'm just going to eat everything.
Yeah.
And even if it's Ramadan or not.
Yes.
So I always say make sure it has some fat in it.
Okay.
So I drizzle, like my first meal in, I drizzle tons of olive oil on it so that my blood sugar doesn't go up.
Spike, yes.
And then crash, and now I'm craving something sweet again.
And then you don't feel good either.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great advice. Thank you. I want to move on to menopause.
Yes.
I guess my first question is, I think a lot of women, my age are starting to be more curious about it, wanting to learn more about it. Can you tell us what menopause is?
Yep.
And then also, what's the average age are you finding that women are going into menopause?
Yeah. So I love the way you asked this question because I think that we have the conversation all wrong right now around menopause. So starting at 35, your first hormone that's going to go down is progesterone. So the challenge with that is you start to feel like you did, some anxiety, you're maybe a little more hungry the week before your period. So it's sort of the beginning of the whole experience.
Yeah.
So this is why we need to know how to cater to her. So that's the first one. Then about 40, your ovaries, if they could speak, they're like, hey, I'm going to go into retirement. I only have like a certain amount of eggs left. It's going to take me about 10 years to like fully retire. And in that time, I'm going to hand over the job of making sex hormones to other organs.
Right.
I'm going to hand it over to the adrenals. I'm going to hand it over to some peripheral tissues in your body. And slowly over time, I'm going to back away. This is when estrogen's up. She's down, she's up, she's down. As somebody, you probably experienced this with curly hair. When I was going through perimenopause, it would be like one day my hair was fluffy and curly. The next day it was stick straight.
That's me on an average day going out in humidity. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. But I was like, oh my gosh, like one day your skin is moist. The next day your skin is completely dry.
Interesting.
So estradiol, the hormone that goes away, that version of estrogen that goes away in menopause, she actually stimulates a whole bunch of neurotransmitters. She stimulates dopamine and serotonin and acetylcholine. She brings collagen. She makes you insulin sensitive. So as she's like on this wild ride up and down, it's your lifestyle has to change.
Right.
And I think that's kind of the biggest thing that we're missing in the conversation is that 35 is the moment you need to think of your lifestyle different.
Wow.
You need more rest and recovery the week before your period. And you're going to need to become more glucose sensitive on the beginning half of your cycle so that you can make sure that estrogen isn't going too low or too high.
Wow.
So there's what I'd love to see the culture talking about is that there's a lifestyle change that happens in this process. Because reproductively, that chapter is closing.
Right.
And any woman that wants to have a baby in the 40s, I'm not saying you can't.
Yes.
But it is a closing down of a moment that you've been in. Which leads me kind of to the other piece of menopause that I'm really feeling sad isn't being talked enough, is that women, humans, live 42.5% of our life in post-reproductively. We are the longest living species.
Wow.
We live 42% of our life without a reproductive system. Okay, why?
Yeah.
So it's because this is a metamorphosis. This is a moment that we can transition into a different version of ourselves. I believe this is the moment we take our power back. This is the moment we live life through our lens.
Ourselves, yeah.
This is the time we stop adapting to a culture that has us adapting in all kinds of weird ways, and we step into our own power and we go, hey, I'm going to live life my way now.
Yeah.
And when you look at the statistics, they're not great for that process. Like 45 to 55 is the most common time a woman will kill herself.
Oh my gosh, no way.
So why is that? I believe it's because we are coming into our own selves. We're coming into our own version of ourself. And we may all of a sudden realize that the life we created is one that isn't congruent with the person we want to become. So and statistics like after 50, 65% of divorces are initiated by women.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Like, I think that's because women are changing. We change through the menopausal process.
Yes.
And the marriages that survive are the ones that understand that the spouse is turning into a butterfly.
Right.
She's going into a new version of herself. This is my whole next book because I think we've made it too mechanical. I think menopause is a spiritual journey, and it's a returning back to yourself.
I agree. You know, I saw my mom go through menopause, and she's now in her late 60s, and she's turning 70, I think. Yeah. And she is just come into the best version of herself that I've ever seen.
Exactly.
And it was because, I mean, my dad is incredible. He's so supportive, so loving. He is just phenomenal. But I also think she gave herself this second life. Like, she chose to not slow down in terms of like, she's retired, but she created a new life for herself by serving community. And so like this whole new version of herself has come through, and my dad helps her with it. And it's just beautiful because, I think for a lot of people, if they don't have community, you end up feeling like after the age of 60 or 70, it's like, I guess I've got no purpose here.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do here?
Right.
And I think that can really affect once your children leave. If you've had children, your children go off, they've got their own life. Then it's just, you and your husband or you and your partner, and you're like, well, what do I do now?
Right.
And so there's this whole like crisis that that you go through.
Yep.
But when you end up trying to find a new purpose, like you're speaking about, whether it's spiritual, whether it's community-based, you end up feeling like, oh, this life, like now I have so much more meaning in my life. And there's something that is coming from this.
Have you heard of the grandmother hypothesis?
I think so, but tell me about it.
Okay, so this is part of my new book and something that a lot of menopausal leaders have talked about. But I think if we break it down a little bit more, we can explain what happened to your mom.
Okay, yeah.
So the grandmother hypothesis is a hypothesis that the reason that we live so long in those post-reproductive time is because we're supposed to be leaders of the culture.
Right.
And if you go back to the evolutionary tribal, caveman woman days, what happened was that typically the man would go out and hunt. What's interesting about that, and this is going to sound really sexist, so hang in here for people who are like, what? But he would go out and he would hunt, and only 3% of the time he would come back with a kill.
Wow.
Staying at home in the clan was the fertile woman who was either nursing babies, growing babies, or tending to babies.
Right.
Then we had a whole bunch of toddlers that needed to be cared for.
Yes.
And because they only came back with food 3% of the time, we needed somebody to go find food.
Right.
So when the idea is that the grandmother was the one that actually went and found the food. The grandmother was the one that took care of the clan.
Right.
So the absence of a reproductive system, there is an energy that is given back to women. And the grandmother hypothesis says that we put it in 3 areas. We can put it in fitness, which is totally blows the whole idea that we should physically slow down. But in the tribal days, they needed, or in the cave person days, they needed to be able to go and get food and walk long distances. Second thing they used it for was cognition, that extra energy. And we needed to go figure out, they specifically pulled out tubers, which are sweet potatoes, sunchokes. So you had to go be able to figure out where the tubers were. And the third thing we used it for was social. So in the grandmother hypothesis, what happens is women start in their elder years, start rallying around each other. Yeah. This is your mom.
My grandma as well. My grandma started like a whole kind of grandma club where her and her friends would get together, do spiritual prayers together, they'd sing together, they'd dance together. And my mum also, that's so funny you said fitness, because she used to be a fitness instructor when I was really young. She hasn't done it for like 20 years. Someone found out, I must have spoken about it. The community found out that she used to do that. They were like, do you want to start up some classes for some of the community free of charge? She was like, of course. She spent like 2-3 months practicing her routine. And now every week she's teaching fitness to like people my age.
Amazing.
And she's doing fitness classes. So she's doing the fitness, the
Amazing.
community, and she's very intelligent anyway. So she puts it back into that. But it's so beautiful because when you're saying that, I can literally see that happening in my mom's life.
I think menopause is an initiation.
Yeah.
It's an initiation into the next version of you. And this is, I think, why we're suffering is because we're not looking at it that way.
Yeah.
We're like, oh my God, I can't think straight. I can't sleep. I've got hot flashes. I'm gaining weight. And we're too focused on that as opposed to, wow, I can't wait to see who I'm going to be on the other side of this.
Yes, exactly.
Like what a difference menopause would be. Like at 35, you could be like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm going into menopause because I can't wait for this transition into this new version of myself that I've witnessed in my mother and my grandmother.
Yeah, they are pretty spectacular. I have a question though. So for all the women who are 34, 35, still thinking about having children, what's some advice that you would give in terms of like to keep their fertility in the best shape possible for the next couple of years while they're trying to conceive?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I would say three things. One, you're a rhythmic human. You need to start eating and fasting and doing supplements and exercising to your hormonal
What are
rhythm.
some of the best supplements the supplements you recommend for
magnesium.
women?
I mean, magnesium, zinc are like requirements for hormones. Minerals in general, we don't have enough. We don't get enough of them, and so we really need more minerals to be brought into our bodies.
And do you recommend sprays or taking taking like supplements? What do you normally recommend?
So the brand I love, and it's just the brand I love.
No, it's so good having recommendations. Yeah,
it's called Beam Minerals, and the reason I love it is it's fulvic and humic acid minerals that were taken from the earth.
Okay,
so what happens in that situation is when you're taking a mineral in as a complex, a collective group of minerals from the earth, the earth didn't make a mistake.
Right.
The earth figured out the ratios that you need. And it's a liquid. I take a little shot of them every morning.
Amazing.
So it's kind of like food-based minerals, right? Because once we start to put it into a supplement,
I know.
Now man has manipulated it.
Yes.
And how do we know it's right for us?
We don't.
Yeah.
We really don't.
So that's
as close to nature as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Magnesium and zinc are like some of the really important things. Cycling supplements. I would, go check out the fasting cycle, or just know that you are rhythmic. So if you're eating the same thing every day of the month, you're not necessarily in rhythm with your hormone.
And you said cycling supplements. Do you mind explaining that just a little bit for people who don't know what that is?
Yeah. A supplement should be a supplement.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not meant to be on it all the time.
No.
So, there's a lot of companies out there now that are doing hormone cycling supplements. I could go through the whole list, but it might be long and boring.
Yeah, it's good to know though.
So, but, when we're taking a supplement all the time, it's really not.
It's almost like medicine. You kind of have to see it as, when your body needs something, have it, and then you may be full of it. You may have gotten everything that you need, and then you have to come off it. Maybe you'll need something else at that point in your life. And so, do you recommend getting a blood test done regularly, or like to know what your body is deficient in or what it needs?
I think once a year is a really good plan. I like that. And working with an integrative OB is really helpful. Somebody who knows supplements and can read a blood work and be able to tell you which supplements is really important.
Okay, so magnesium, you said. Zinc, and obviously cycling your supplements.
Yeah, and then just knowing which supplements. I mean, you need a lot more B vitamins at the front half of that, and the back half, magnesium.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah, like progesterone needs magnesium. Right. So like if you start at 35, you can't sleep very well, try mega dosing magnesium and see how that works.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah.
That's wonderful.
So rhythmic, and then two other things I wanted to just point out.
Please.
Let's go back to the safety conversation.
Yes.
Make sure the environments you're putting yourself in feel safe and that you're nurturing yourself and you're not, unsafe might look like running marathons all the time. Yeah. You might need to run a marathon and then maybe chill out and do a yoga retreat. So it could look like that. Yeah. It could look like working too much.
Yeah.
So like could look like you're just working your fanny off all cycle long. So just, really doing a safety inventory, I think is good.
Yeah.
And then the last one is a hard one, but it's toxins. And the reason toxins throw our whole cycle off is that there are only two parts of the brain that don't have a blood-brain barrier. And the number one part is your hypothalamus, which controls all hormones.
Yes.
So BPA plastics, heavy metals. I mean, I don't know if you guys have talked about what's in the air in LA right now, but it's definitely been an interesting conversation I've had with other people. If you're in a moldy environment, those kind of things can get in that hypothalamus, and then they start to change your hormonal cycle.
Right. That makes sense. So is there any things that people should be taking or doing to prevent those toxins right now?
Yeah. I mean, I think people should be detoxing every day. And what that could look like is, are you eating enough leafy green vegetables? Like you got to, fiber is going to help feed those microbes that will help to detox you.
Yes.
Are you prioritizing sleep?
Yeah.
At night, our brain actually shrinks and our cerebral spinal fluid goes up and washes our brain and detoxes it every single night. Things like chlorella and, some of the deeper green spirulina.
Yes.
Are you leaning into those? And then we have big detoxes, binders like activated charcoal and zeolites. We're doing some really interesting things with Next Health, which I think you guys
love Next Health. I just had my bloods done, waiting for the test results to come back.
So Darshan I'm actually tomorrow we'll go for my third total plasma exchange, which is where they take out 65% they take out your blood and they filter 65% of the toxins out. Yeah. So we have some really cool new detoxes coming online as well.
I know you mentioned stress and, the safety aspect of it, but I guess the question that came up in my mind was, is some element of, should we be trying to eliminate all stress in our life, or should we be trying to find, well, I guess there's twofold. Should we be trying to cope with the stresses, or should we really, as much as possible, like whether it's work or all the things that you mentioned, is there an element of stress just being part and parcel of our life if you're able to manage it? Yeah. How do you know whether you're going from a point of, this is too much stress for my body to handle?
So good.
Again, I'm thinking for myself. I'm
so good. Well, okay, so for a cycling woman, just really the time to just bring everything down. Your work production, your fitness production, just nurture yourself, give yourself grace to not work out if you don't feel like working out is that week before your period. So if all we did is
don't push it.
Yeah, just don't push it. Slow it all down. Cut the workload, the input into your brain, cut it all in half if you can that week before. And then what will happen is once your period starts, you'll actually be more productive.
Yeah, see, you're so right. And I have to say this because I notice if I have a really intense week that week, it throws me off for the rest of the month.
Yeah.
I am struggling. I had this past week was quite an intense week for me. And, I started my periods a couple of days ago, but I would say that usually at this point I'm feeling really energetic and I am not.
Yeah.
And it's because the few days before I was coming on, I was really pushing myself. I'd had some late nights. I was waking up super early. I was working the whole day. My mind was working. My body, I was pushing myself in my workouts. Yep. And I've noticed the cycle of when I do that, the week of and the week after, I'm struggling instead of thriving.
Yeah.
And that has become a sign for me that, okay, you need to listen and slow down in that period. And when I do that, I am thriving for the rest of the month.
Perfect.
I know. I'm learned my lesson. I just need to make sure I stick to it.
Yeah. So there's something called the polyvagal theory where our nervous system is supposed to go into fight or flight and then rest or digest. Yes. But if we've been in fight or flight for too long, we go into a third nervous system called freeze. And in the freeze nervous system, what ends up happening is we numb ourselves. So we can numb ourselves with food, with social media. We withdraw. So all of a sudden we don't want to be around people.
Yeah.
This can be our teenage world right now. Or we become really hypersensitive to everything. So I'll use myself as an example. Yeah. After 3 evacuations, and I actually lost a really dear friend in October. Oh. So when I lost my neighborhood, my home's still there, but I evacuated for 2 days nonstop. And then on the heels of losing a good friend, I literally went to my staff and I'm writing another book and I'm like, I need a 90-day timeout.
Wow.
I need to go somewhere in nature for 90 days to reboot my nervous system because it can't do it on its own.
No.
But we don't really, you know how hard it's been to fight for that?
Yeah.
We don't have a culture that accepts that.
No, because then you're like, oh, am I just not doing my duty or like not doing the work I'm supposed to be doing? You know, whether if you've got teams, you feel like you're letting the teams down.
Like imagine a world where we were like, hey, it's the week before my period. I'm just going to take it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
I'll work 6 days, 7 days once my period starts.
Yeah.
But for right now, I'm going to nurture myself. I think 2 things would happen. Women in general would, people would be like, you're a loser. You're like, like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
especially
you're over-exaggerating.
Yeah, you're
relax.
you're over-exaggerating. You're so emotional. So there would be that judgment on us. But I think it would be the internal judgment that would be the hardest.
Yeah.
Am I not doing enough?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not doing enough, then I'm not worthy enough.
Yeah.
And if I'm not worthy enough, then I don't feel good about myself. And then when the spiral starts.
It is such a spiral. Yeah, you're so right. So I feel like if people do have the opportunity to just, whatever you can take out of your diary during that time, it's so worth it.
And give each other grace. Like conversations like this are so important so that we all go, hey, I'm not going to go to ladies' night out. It sounds really fun.
But I can't do another late night right now. Yeah,
bingo.
Not today.
Or you know what, to your staff, to be like, hey, I really am, the creative juices aren't flowing. I'm feeling really exhausted. I'm going to take a few extra days. And then, once my cycle starts, I'll put it into high gear again.
The funny thing is we're all women and most of us have cycle synced. So we're like,
so
it's like, okay, cool. We'll take this week off and I'll see you next week.
Perfect. There's all new models of work that are showing up right now.
Really?
Yeah. And a lot of like the health world and the podcast world is actually sort of bringing that forward.
That's a great idea.
So I've heard of one where they do like a company will do like a 6-week sprint where everybody's like full on for 6 weeks and then they take a full week off. So if you were all women, it'd be really interesting to do like a 3-week sprint where everybody's working a lot more.
Yeah.
And then the week before your period, everybody brings it down.
Yeah. We just all like we had a puppy day today where we had some puppies that came in for one of the girls' birthdays from a shelter. They're so cute, but everyone at lunchtime just had all these little puppies around them and it just soothed everyone's nervous system. So that was
what a
really
great
wonderful.
idea.
I know, it was a great idea. I wanted to just touch on perimenopause because I think there's, confusion between what is even the difference between perimenopause and menopause. Yeah. What are some of the signs and symptoms to look out for?
Yeah. So perimenopause is when those hormones are starting to go down.
Right.
But you still have a regular cycle.
Oh,
so you're still having a regular cycle, but you're starting to notice, hey, I might not sleep as well as I used to. I seem to be reacting to stress a little bit more acutely. Sometimes you're like the same routines that helped you lose weight don't help you anymore.
Yeah.
And that was the menopause reset. That whole book was about how the diet you did at 35 doesn't work for you at 45.
Right.
So it's really a time in which the hormones are starting to go down and you're starting to experience yourself different.
Right.
And like things that used to work in your health habits are not working.
Right.
So skin changes, hair changes, lubrication to like, moisture, mucosal membranes, libido goes down. You don't feel like working out. You're injured a little more. Like you're just like something's up.
Yes.
And it's because these amazing wisdom molecules are starting to go away. So that's kind of the indication, but it's the warm down.
Right.
Like what's really interesting is it takes about 10 years from the time that you start your period to be like fully in your glory. So if you start your period at 13.
Yes.
It takes your body about 10 years for the brain and the ovaries to get their groove going.
Yeah, so true.
Right?
Yeah.
By 23, you're in. Well, at 35, now you're going 10 years where it starts to wind down.
Right.
So it's not like one day. That was kind of the big thing that I was shocked at. I thought you were just fertile one day and then one day it went away.
Yes. I think a lot of people think that. It's not how it works. No. I want to ask you about HRT. Because obviously a lot of women get put on, I don't know whether all women get put on HRT when they go through menopause?
No, HRT is coming back in vogue.
Right.
I think it's a very personal decision. It's not going to be a free pass from lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
You want to work with somebody who can work with the dosage.
Right.
Because what would be an appropriate dose for you may be completely different for somebody else.
And if this is a natural process that your body will just go through, does someone need to be having HRT?
No.
Right.
I think
for anyone, it's hormonal replacement.
Hormone replacement therapy.
Right? Yes.
So like I've been doing some research on the different HRT uses like throughout the world. Only 4% of perimenopause and menopausal women in Japan use HRT.
Oh, wow.
Whereas 50% use it here in the US.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's start to unpack what the lifestyle differences are. So it's a personal choice, and I don't think a woman should be shamed to go on it. I don't think she should be shamed to not go on it.
Yes, of course.
I think you have to look at your lifestyle changes first and then make a decision if it's right for you.
Right.
And then what happens to most women is once you go on, there's a little bit of a learning curve. You have to figure out what your proper dose is. That's why you need a really good OB.
Right, that makes sense.
So,
is there anything else that you would want women listening to know that you haven't mentioned already, or any last pieces of advice?
I mean, I love this conversation. It was great. So thank you.
Thank you.
Just don't give up on yourself.
Yeah.
We were really, the way the culture taught us to treat our bodies is so wrong.
Yeah.
Like you were born in a miracle. Your body's always doing the right thing at the right time. It's always working for you. The more I study the female body, the more blessed I am to have lived in a female body.
Yes.
And it's really just about getting to know this incredible miracle that you get to live in. So be curious about it. Don't be shameful about it.
Thank you so much. You have been absolutely incredible. Thank you for your knowledge, your wisdom, your energy. And honestly, everybody, please go out and read these books because you will learn so much more about yourself than you can ever imagine. And you can just improve your health day in, day out. And that's such a beautiful blessing to have the opportunity to do that. So thank you, Dr. Mindy. This was so wonderful.
Radhi. Yeah, appreciate you.
Appreciate you.